response to the Soviet Union's launch of Sputnik, the United States has started a new space program called Mercury. You're watching Techstrong Gang. Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. Welcome to another edition of Techstrong Gang. You know, it's no kidding around. We've had our little Sputnik moment here, perhaps in AI. We're going to discuss that. We've got some other AI stuff, and as well as a little quantum. It's AI and quantum. I feel like I'm living in the future. Who would have thought? Well, we've got a lot of good stuff to go over today. We've got good people to go over it with. Let me introduce you to our gang lineup for today. First of all, sporting her Valentine's colors in red and pink and white, it's our resident. Well, weren't you were just on somewhere in Asia? Was it Bloomberg Asia or Middle East?
I was. Middle East, yes, last week.
Very cool. It's our own Lisa Martin. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Hey, Alan, I am so good. I love the Sputnik reference. I'm a space geek. I used to work for NASA, and I'm big into AI, and this is going to be a really interesting show.
I agree with you. I'm a space geek too. Going from California, we'll stop over in Colorado for just a quick check-in with our very own Mitch Ashley. Hey, Mitch, how are you?
Hey, very good. You know, one of the things I remember, you remember Edward Teller, who was, part of the Manhattan Project?
Sure. Well,
One of the things he said about Sputnik was, it's a greater defeat for our country than Pearl Harbor. That's how impactful Sputnik was when it happened.
Yeah, interesting. Mike, do you want to remind people out there what Sputnik was?
Sputnik was an effort where the Russians put a satellite up in the space just before we got our act together around the moon program, and everybody flipped out, and suddenly we needed to be on the moon before anything else during the Kennedy administration. And I don't know, I'm sure it was a big moment at the time, but then, looking back in retrospective, I'm not sure anybody remembers it as big a moment, but you guys.
Well, some would say we wouldn't have had a moon program had it not been for Sputnik. It spurred the U.S. to take a hard look and maybe win at all cost. Some people say it might have cost the lives of Gus Grissom and a couple of the Apollo 1 astronauts, right? Because they were under such pressure to keep ahead of the Russians and the Soviets.
The real fear was it was a ballistic missile that put Sputnik up there, and now we can reach anywhere via space. That's what really freaked people about it.
Sputnik itself was nothing more than a little ball that sent out a beep, beep, beep signal, right? But we'll talk more about that. I was afraid to bring it up too early, and I did. And anyway, Mike Vizard, welcome to our show today, and thanks for the historical reference. Let's move.
Well, I would just say that if we're talking space, I'm going with Steve Miller and Space Cowboy. That's where I think it's at.
Yeah.
Okay. Nothing but space. Some people call him Maurice, but that's okay. Let's move on over to Amanda, our editor-at-large, Amanda Razzani, down in San Angelo, Texas, which is not quite Houston. But we don't have a problem there, do we, Amanda?
Nope, doing well. Happy to be here today.
Okay. Just full of space references today, right? Anyway, so look, we're going to talk DeepSeek because everyone's talking about it, but we're going to save that for our second block. Let's go to our first block. Mike, you want to kick it off?
All right. Well, there's been some noise in the social system, and Mark Andreessen is out once again banging the drum, but he put out a tweet saying that ultimately the goal of AI was to destroy wages to the point where we could then rebuild the economy. That seems like a rather broad statement. I'm sure there's a lot of hyperbole involved, but I'm going to start with Lisa. Is that kind of stuff helpful at the end of the day? Because it seems like it just sends everybody running for cover, and it's really kind of counterproductive. And maybe we do need a national AI strategy, because otherwise it's left in the hands of people who don't seem to care what happens to anybody else.
Yeah, I thought it was a very bold statement, but that is Mark Andreessen, so I wasn't surprised by that. But we just came off of talking about the World Economic Forum. That's actually what I was on Bloomberg Middle East talking about, where the big fear is AI will take jobs, and I talk about that on the radio to help lay people kind of get their concerns assuaged. Like, yes, we're already seeing jobs replaced by automation. We haven't talked about wage impact yet. We're seeing that, but we're also going to see 170 million jobs created in the next 5 years, according to the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report, which shows positive gain of 78 million as 92 million jobs are replaced. So there's some positive messages coming out there. And I think what Andreessen puts out in terms of wages, I haven't heard that before. I thought it was a bit of a pessimistic statement. And I don't know if that means we need AI regulations. I think that's a topic that we could unpack on its own. We probably will. But it was something that I think will send shockwaves through Silicon Valley investors, Wall Street, and Washington.
Well, I had trouble interpreting, I interpreted it two ways. That could mean that our future is Star Trek, where we don't have wages and people don't have to make a living. Or it could be medieval England, back, and the serfs and the lords and et cetera. I mean, it could be very draconian. It didn't make sense to me. Who's going to buy anything if they don't have any wages?
Resource-based economy.
Right. Am I going to afford that Tesla from Elon if I don't have
that's kind of like let's figure that part out. No, it seemed like a very arrogant statement, in my opinion.
So the piece, and I don't think we're calling for more regulations as much as I just feel like maybe we need an actual strategy, because it seems like, right now there isn't anybody who's got their hands on the steering wheel. But
given the DeepSeek stuff, forget a national strategy. This is an all-out race to the finish line, or whatever the perceived finish line is, and rules and strategies and processes and safeguards be damned. Right, that's what you're going to get out of our government right now. But look, there was a time where I really respected Mark Andreessen, right? The work he did in building out Mosaic and then Netscape and everything when he was still in school. I mean, he in many ways gave us the web that we see today and use today. As a venture capitalist, he's very successful, but he's become a butthole. Right? He cares about nothing other than the return on his funds. And maybe that's what vulture capitalists are about. And he's the head vulture, right? And of course, he'd like to see you crush wages to be more efficient, to get greater returns on his investments. And that's all the man cares about, and currying favor with our president. And if that's what he's become, honestly, I pity him.
Makes me think of that movie, Show Me the Money.
Yeah, I mean,
That's the first
all
part
the
that came to
money
my
in the
head.
world don't buy happiness and doesn't make you a good person. And so, but let's get to the crux of the matter now that I've unloaded that off my chest. Is AI going to crush wages? Yeah, when it takes away jobs, it makes menial jobs. Yeah, I'm reminded, and I probably have told this story before. My oldest son got into the Kelly School at Indiana University when he was applying to college, and I went up there with him on a Friday. And first thing they did is they brought us into a class with a professor, and this was an economics professor, and he started telling the students about why minimum wage laws were a bad thing. Because it prevents employers from providing jobs to people because the jobs would be too expensive. And so instead they're going to use machines or some automation or robots to replace people with those jobs. And I raised my hand. I said, I don't know what PhD program you went to or what, but this is not a school for my son. Because as an employer, I will tell you, if I have a technology, whether it's robots or AI or anything else, that can take the place of a human more economically, I'm a fool not to do it, right? They never get sick. They never take a day off. They never steal. They never do things that, you know, some employees could do. And so, keep getting rid of minimum wages just to create busy work jobs. Maybe that worked for FDR in the Depression and the TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority. It might being as your historical commentary, you could tell people what that is. But it doesn't work in the real world. So if AI is going to take jobs away, let it take the jobs away, because as Lisa says, it's going to create other jobs. And those other jobs are going to be high paying, good jobs. Go Henry Ford, when he made the assembly line, everyone said, oh my God, it's taken away the jobs of these craftsmen who were building the horseless carriages. And you know what? It gave rise to the middle class, right? So let the chips fall where they may. This is economics 101. Yeah, some jobs are going to be taken away. Some jobs are not going to be worth paying the kind of wages they pay now. But this is how the economy, it's like first growth forest, right? The old forest burns down, new trees come in. This is how the economy and the job market renews itself.
Yeah, and as you mentioned in the last show, people going to school should maybe think more about AI related degrees and certifications, because you're going to be working with a lot more AI that's taking those jobs. So there's going to be people needing to manage the AI.
I think there's a real concern that you're going to have political unrest driven by people who don't understand what you just described and are going to wake up one morning and go, let me get this straight. I can't make a living, so I think I'll go vote for this other fellow over here who's going to tell me he's going to restore order to the natural way it was before all this chaos ensued. And, we could have a serious problem.
So
Yeah, I think
go
we
ahead.
have that already.
We have that. I was just going to say that, Mitch. We're going to have, look, but here's the reality of the way our politics works. 2 months ago, people were ready to had their pitchforks and torches out because the price of eggs was so high. Well, this week, the price of eggs went back up, and all of a sudden, those people with the pitchforks and torches are saying, my God, do you know what goes into pricing eggs here between global climate change, the bird flu, and everything else? We've got to give this thing a chance. Our country is so goddamn tribalized that they will move heaven and earth and high water to make an excuse for their tribe's shortcomings or successes, right? If AI crushes job wages, the red are going to say it's the blue fault, the blue is going to say it's the red fault, and that's just the way it is in this country. I'm sorry.
Well, mob rule might be coming this way because, what happens.
Isn't
with
that
all
what
those
January
gods,
6th was? And now they're pardoned. Let's not even go here.
I was gonna say also, Alan, thank you. You and I were in sync on that one. Is, we've had this multiple times. Just one example is manufacturing leaving the United States, right? Business pushed manufacturing overseas because it's more economical. It, saves money. It helps you be more competitive. It brings a few challenges with it, but it disrupts jobs, right?
Yeah.
And you can talk about the steel industry or manufacturing community. And we as a country don't have a history of putting together programs to help people, like seriously help people that are displaced when big changes happen in our economy, except for the Depression. That's probably really the only exception I can think of. So it is a natural order. And my personal opinion, I think a lot of the unrest has been multiple sequence of that between manufacturing and steel, and then robotics, and then the cloud, and now AI is the next thing. And, is there a tipping point or a flash point where, all of a sudden there's a big uprise? Hasn't happened yet, but possible. I just think this is another cycle that we're going through.
And I was going to bring it up when we talk about DeepSeek later. Unfortunately, the knee-jerk reaction of too many of the quasi-intellectuals, they're not intellectuals, the people who are in power right now, is let's put up a wall to keep the barbarians out. Whether it's immigrants, technology, jobs, factories, whatever, let's put up a wall to keep the barbarians out. They were only able to accomplish this because they used our technology. They used our chips. They used our universities. They came in here as criminals and brought drugs. Let's put up a wall and keep the barbarians out. It didn't work well for China 2,000 or 1,000 years ago. It won't work well for us. You've got to embrace change. You've got to embrace new realities, adapt, and thrive. You can't react by trying to move time back. You can't turn back time, like Cher says. And that's Shimmy's advice for you all today.
From the great philosopher Cher.
Yeah.
Her words to God's.
If I could turn back time. So anyway,
We got a lot of music on this show today.
yeah, we got a couple of music references there. Mitch may want to break out the guitar. But
In a minute. I'm holding myself back.
all right, let's take a break then. We're going to come back, and this is the main event's coming on up. We're going to talk about DeepSeek, target for cyber attack, poppycock. We'll be right back. You're watching Techstrong Gang.
SecurityBoulevard.com is the leading resource for news, analysis, and education on challenges facing the cybersecurity industry. SecurityBoulevard.com covers all aspects of cybersecurity, including data security, DevSecOps, cloud security, application security, network security, security threats, and more. SecurityBoulevard.com has the largest selection of security content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.securityboulevard.com to learn more. SecurityBoulevard.com, home of Security Bloggers Network.
All right, folks, we're back. And yes, well, everybody's talking about this new AI model from China that's got everybody kind of bent out of shape. And the latest is allegedly that it suffered a cyber attack and they were limiting registrations for the most popular downloaded piece of software in recent memory. But some people argue that that may or may not be the case. But Amanda, I know you've been following this on the socials. What are you hearing? What are you seeing?
Oh, so many things. So I actually have a few comments pulled up that I'm going to share. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking in the first segment. So one of them says, yes. And the irony is that NVIDIA gave them the lesser hardware and leftovers. But one thing I'm reminded is that the Chinese government has invested heavily in their infrastructure. And I think the United States will be doing that over the next 4 years. It will be a big race. Then somebody else said, they're now under the microscope, whether political or legitimate concerns. China is the new Russian spy. So in my opinion, we should be aware of that implication in our conversations. And then I was reading that article that was talking about, here we have another popular app from China. And, if you listen to the conspiracy theories out there, which sometimes turn out to be true, I'm just saying, if everybody was paying attention to TikTok when it got pulled down, I was on TikTok when it got pulled down. And then it came back up the next day. And now everybody's saying that the content's completely different. The algorithm changed. There's nothing about fires. There's nothing about the drones. There's nothing about the border. So was China trying to spread dissent there through that app? So in that regard, my thought, like the wheels are spinning in my brain. Yes, it could be an attack. So DeepSeek suffered this attack. It could be an attack from somebody that is trying to break them down because they're competition. But could it be it's their own attack because people are already on it and now their own attack got all this information? I don't know. I'm just saying.
So let me weigh in
Doug-
here. Mitch, did you want to go first, Mitch?
Go ahead. You go ahead. I'll jump in.
All right. So first of all, I think this is as simple as we live in a crazy world where all of a sudden you're the top app on the app store, and it's like that IBM commercial. 10 orders, 12 orders, 200 orders, 5,000 orders, 5 million orders. Oh my God, we succeeded beyond our dreams. I think that's what happened here. I think that they just didn't have the infrastructure to set up account registrations, and it crashed their servers. It happens all the time. Now, but the world we live in and the stakes, at play here, right away we say, oh, it's a cyber attack. It was brought down. Who's looking to bring these people down? The NSA? What? Do you really think OpenAI launched a cyber attack on DeepSeek? Come on.
Who knows? Just conspiracy theorists I'm quoting. I'm
Yeah,
just
no,
saying.
I did. And you know what they say about conspiracy theory? It's every toilet has one sitting on top of it. Okay? Now, who is going to attack them? Right? Now, you want to get really conspiracy theories? It was the Chinese attacking themselves to make it look like the Americans attacked the Chinese. Back to my article that I wrote Sunday. I know that you know that I know that you know. Let's stop. There was no financial gain here necessarily in this attack. Nation state, I don't think it's not it's a short-term silliness to block that right now, right? That's I think, again, Sputnik is launching ballistic missiles on us, and oh my God, I better go dig my shelter out and make sure I got a lot of water saved up. It's all part of this fear mongering. Keep the barbarians out. Stop. It's simple. They crashed their servers. It wasn't a cyber attack. And they're claiming it's a cyber attack to curry sympathy, favor, and patience from the audience, because you know how we all are here. My internet doesn't work at 35,000 feet on the plane. God damn it, I'm not flying that American airline anymore. So they don't want people to say that. It's easier for them to say, well, we can't get you registered because someone cyber attacked us. Must be those ugly Americans, right, Boris? Yes, Natasha.
Hey, did you hear about this new afternoon show? It's called As the AI World Turns.
Exactly. Exactly.
Way
Well,
to quote a famous philosopher, Madonna, "Don't cry for me, Argentina." Who gives a crap? Another attack on another website. Who gives a
I
crap?
will, I,
That's
I
not
will
really the
point,
story, I don't think.
I will point out something. I don't know if you caught Pat Gelsinger having a last laugh, but he was pointing
yes.
out the fact that, gee, wasn't it an amazing achievement that somebody actually created all these AI models using cheap, inexpensive hardware? And he was like,
Well, so that brings up the real meat of the issue here. Yes, whether it was a cyber attack or just the stuff, their machines couldn't handle the load. The real issue here is the Sputnik kind of reaction that we're seeing, right? It created such. I'm too young for Sputnik, right? I was born in 1960, so that was already, I think, after Sputnik. I do remember the early astronauts. I certainly remember the moon landing. That being said, from what I learned about it in school and being a history buff, is it created tremendous angst in the West and in the US specifically. And had it not been for that moment, and it really was just a moment, right? The US never would have moved the way it moved with NASA and the space program. And it was Sputnik, and then if you remember, the Russians were the first one to put Gagarin, the first man in space, a couple months before the US. John Glenn, Alan Shepard. So I think that's what we're looking at here, right? The fact of the matter is, stop trying to say, I read people, even some of our Futurum brethren on LinkedIn today saying, until I see this replicated on our reliable hardware, I won't believe a word it said. Stop. Maybe it's not 100%, but 90% of what these people have done is true. They might have found a better mousetrap. That doesn't mean the game is over. It just means now we got a new mousetrap to play with. And can we take that, build on it, innovate, out-compete, outperform? That's America. That's what we need to do. We chose to go to the moon not because it's easy, because it's hard. Right?
Here's what I like. Here's
Doesn't
what I
that
like
call into
about deepfake is that it actually has a unintended consequence
Wait,
of
Mitchell, what did you call it?
deepfake. Sorry,
That was
DeepSeek.
Freudian.
Wait,
That's what
that
I
was
heard.
a
That was
that was a
Freudian.
pun. Well, I didn't really talk about. Whew, okay, moment. So DeepSeek is. I don't believe what the Chinese say about how much time it took and how much money, and who knows? Could be true, could not be true. But I think the effect of it is it gets us off of this hardware infrastructure train of that's a bigger, better hammer solves all problems. And it's putting it back on the board to say, all right, if this is possible, whether they did it that way or not, or whether they had NVIDIA chips or not, and let's go back to the drawing board and let's use a constrained model of trying to do this much faster, much cheaper. And how can we do innovation down that path instead of just complaining we can't get enough chips from NVIDIA? So I think there's actually it's sort of the Star Wars effect. You remember that when Reagan announced that against the Russians about we're going to be able to do all these things in space and attack Russia and defend ourselves, and 90% of it was fake, but it was misinformation. In some ways, this is kind of that moment with DeepSeek for us, like to get us. It's gotten us to react. We'll see if we forget about it by tomorrow, but it could have a
A
real
lot
big
of
impact on
reaction.
us.
Isn't it calling to question though? Sorry, Mike. Something that we've been hearing about for such a long time is just the hundreds of billions being invested in AI infrastructure and investors wanting to see where's the ROI, where's the proof in the pudding. And we just saw a big commitment with Project Stargate, a week ago-ish, committing 500 billion for AI
That
infrastructure in the
didn't age well,
US.
did it, Lise?
It didn't age well, not at all. But does it call into question the Metas, the Microsofts who are saying we're going to be investing $60 billion each in AI infrastructure? Does it call that into question? Can it be done? Is it's they're saying we can do this way faster, way cheaper. Now there's rumors that they have access to 50,000 NVIDIA chips that they can't disclose because of export rules. But does it call into question the validity of some of those in the Magnificent Seven who are investing tens of billions of dollars in AI infrastructure?
I've got a few thoughts on that, if you don't mind. Two streams of thought there. One is, look, what they've done here and I've been reading some of the technical stuff, and admittedly, it's over my head, right? I don't claim to be an AI engineer or know the finer workings of neural network and training and models and so forth. However, what I have read is that what they've done here is really optimized for mathematics and code. Now, will that allow it to branch out into more general reasoning? Perhaps. But it's really focused around mathematics and code, and it may not do the kinds of things, but for instance, they say it's more comparable to the 4.0 ChatGPT model, not the '01 or even the '03, which is newer, that it wouldn't necessarily, they don't think it would necessarily scale, for lack of a better word, or compete with '01 or '03. So that this methodology of reinforced training and so forth on cheaper hardware and less resources may work for this narrow type of use, which is a very useful use, right? But you may still need to scale the heights, if you will,
So,
of
so,
AGI or
so,
whatever. Mike,
so to
one
me,
other, actually, I'll come back to my next point. Go ahead, you jump in.
to me, that kind of sounds very similar to what we see in the car industry, right? There are very expensive Maseratis that might be built by OpenAI using their model, and then there's going to be generic models that are next to free because we built them using open source software, and that's going to be what the bulk of most people use.
Could
And
be.
is that going to limit the
Yeah.
number of API
So,
calls to OpenAI? Absolutely, but
and so
that's
be
life.
it. If that's the way it is, that's the market at work. But you mentioned the key point there, the open source. That's the real winner here. The real winner here is open source. This thing was supposedly built using open source models. And in itself was released under an open source license, right? Which allows other people to, Mitch and I have been through this with open source. It allows other people to use it, to innovate off of it, to continue developing and seeing it in their own labs and seeing what happens there. Can they replicate it? Can they improve upon it? For everyone who wants to put up the wall to keep the barbarians out, it's sand. The harder you squeeze it, the more it slips out of your fingers. And when you release this kind of thing as open source, I mean, I'm trying to think of the movie that once it got out there, it was like you in everybody's hand.
COVID? You mean like COVID?
Well, COVID, well, that's not a movie, but no. In other words, once it's out there, it's wildfire, right? And you're not going to be able to build a wall around it and keep it out or what have you. It's open source, and that's the real beauty of open source. And so we're going to have to see how this plays out. It may be a world, Mike, as you, where, open AI is a Cadillac or a Maserati, but a lot of people are happy driving a Chevy.
Well, I think it's myopic to only have a view of the goal is general AI, right? And that's the only thing that's valuable. I think this shows that there are multiple paths, and sometimes good enough is good enough. Not everyone has to have the latest iPhone 17 Pro Max like Alan and I do. Some folks are happy to have the starter entry level, right? And is everybody going to be able to use the highest end model that does the greatest, latest thing? No, a lot of people will be able to leverage a service that is much cheaper and is good enough for what they need that job to do. So I think it's myopic to think that there's one path, we're all headed towards one destination. Yeah, that's part of the race.
But Mitchell, they call it
there are
the
lots of things to
singularity.
come out of that, right? We're going to get Velcro, we're going to get Tang, we're going to get all these other things that come out as part of the space race.
But Mitch, they call it the singularity. Mike, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I know they do.
I'm looking forward to when they try to quote unquote ban this, and then when we're chasing immigrants, we'll be chasing smugglers of the DeepSeek AI model.
Yeah. Let me check your chips. Let me check your chips. I mean but unfortunately, I look, I'm not a huge fan necessarily of Donald Trump, but did you hear what he said about this? Right? He said, "Wow, this has got to give us reason to try harder, to do more." But the good news is ultimately it's going to be better for everyone because it's going to bring the price down. It's going to make it more available. That's the right attitude here, where other people in our government are saying, this is the Chinese Communist Party attacking us. They built it using the technology they stole from us. Those are the build the wall, keep the barbarians out people. And no, I think you take this and say, okay, thank you. Thank you for waking us up. Thank you for showing us that maybe there is another way. Let's out innovate them. Let's build on this. Let's
go do it
let's
better.
do what we do, build it better.
This can be a great catalyst.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the attitude. This isn't the time to build your bomb shelter.
We don't need any duck and cover drills. Let's go for it.
Absolutely. All right, Mitch, take us over the hill.
All right. Take us over the hill. Thank you.
We're going to take a break here on Techstrong Gang. Let's get out of this cutting edge stuff of AI, and we'll talk about some quantum. You're watching Techstrong Gang.
Discover Techstrong Group, the epicenter of tech innovation. We're your go-to for reaching IT leaders and practitioners worldwide. Our secret? Impactful content that sparks awareness, engagement, and top-quality leads. With us, you'll access editorial websites, streaming videos, virtual events, custom content, analyst research, and more. Join our satisfied clients. Let's revolutionize your tech journey. Contact us today and tell your story to the world in the most powerful way with Techstrong Group.
All right, folks, the next conversation is about Q-Day. It's coming. We don't know when, but the theory is that we're seeing rapid advances in quantum computing, and that's going to break all our cryptographic algorithms. So we need to replace those algorithms, which is much easier to say than apparently do, because apparently some folks are saying it's going to take years, and if we don't start now, we won't have it in time for when Q-Day arrives. I don't know, Alan, you've been following this too, but first there was Google talking about a new quantum Willow chip, and then there was some other startup talking about an even faster chip. So it seems like the faster these systems get, the more realistic they are, the sooner Q-Day arrives. What do you think?
Well, let me first deal with the story at hand, and then I'm going to do it backwards. I'm going to go from that specific story to the more general quantum stuff. I usually like to go general to specific, Socratic method, but
That's the martini glass
right,
approach.
we'll go the other way. This Palo Alto network announcement about post-quantum cryptography APIs available. Congratulations. Of course, NIST put out post-quantum algorithms for encryption now about a year and a half ago. DigiCert and some of the other cert providers have been using post-quantum or have available post-quantum algorithms for their certificates now for some time. So this sounded very much to me like a Me Too. And hey, they're talking about all this AI stuff. We don't want to be just another AI story. Let's put out a quantum story. Congratulations, Palo Alto. But to quantum in general, you're right. We have been seeing a steady drumbeat here. The Willow chip you mentioned, I know some of the folks who were at the, not CES, the supercomputing show in Atlanta. There were two different quantum computers, one from IBM, which is still the perceived leader in quantum, one from a startup. Google does have the Willow chip, as you said, but also importantly, Google's not DeepSeek and not DeepFake, DeepMind. They bought DeepMind a while ago.
Not deep thought either.
Right.
Oh, not.
But DeepMind announced, I don't know, maybe a week or two ago, that they were actually using AI on quantum computing issues and programs that made using existing quantum chips, existing quantum technology much more feasible, and maybe pushing up than the day for Q-Day, right? When quantum becomes more. But it's funny, I'm fascinated with quantum computing because I'm fascinated with quantum mechanics in general. I'm just not smart enough to grasp it. But I read it and my head goes, zzz. I don't know if I can make that noise again. But anyway, it's coming. It's coming. But the more people I speak to, the more I realize it's probably not coming till 2030, maybe even later, because there are significant hurdles, right? For most tasks that you're going to use the computer for, you're going to have to bifurcate what needs to be done on a quantum processor versus what needs to be done on traditional binary, and then bring it back together, put it back, segregate, bifurcate it back out, bring it. Just the blueprint, the process for what you're going to need to really run real world things where quantum's going to be able to help you like that, I think is still a while away, probably beyond my horizon is how
I
I
heard
put it.
something kind of about that, Alan. Dr. Bob Souter, who is a analyst at Futurum, he covers quantum,
Yep.
and he comes from like longtime IBM, and he worked on quantum and other things there. So he is a real authority on this. He said something, and again, I'm learning too, right? I'm no quantum expert by far. He said that the challenge with quantum is it's not good at things that require a lot of data. So if you have problems that don't require a lot of data, I'm not sure why that's an issue. It's really good for it. So to your point about offloading, what kinds of things do you offload or handle other ways, maybe in traditional
I mean, you need
computing?
microservices to the umpteenth degree, right? And
Wait a minute. Wait a
Exactly.
minute. What about this Chinese DeepSeek quantum startup that found cheaper hardware way to do this?
no, they got taken down by a cyber attack.
Right. RIP.
So my thoughts when I was reading up on the quantum is there's a lot of preparation on the cybersecurity front when we do hit the Q day, because all those people holding the keys that are going to be easily encrypted at that point. So what are your thoughts on the cyber aspect?
So I think this is a case where we actually are out in front of things. And that, because NIST, and I think MITRE was involved, and private industry have been putting out kind of quantum proof algorithms now for well over a year. By the time you have Q day, all the locks on all the doors and the safes and the banks and everything aren't going to break, right? This is a
I don't.
Y2K.
Well, maybe the banks will have the resources to prioritize it, but I think there's large numbers of companies that are dependent upon encryption that are going to wake up one morning and discover that the stuff that they had today that they thought was encrypted was harvested 5 years ago and is now being decrypted, and all kinds of
Well,
embarrassing things.
that could happen, right? Stuff that was
Mhm.
take like salted or hashed salted information that is now unencrypted. But that information, Mike, has a fungible life. It was 5 years ago. It may very well be useless by now. It's kind of like email addresses.
Unless Q day comes a little sooner, maybe, or there are things that companies do that they still don't want anybody to know
Well,
about
this
10
is
years
why
later.
there's such a big push to make the lives of encryption certificates shorter, right? They want to go from never ending to 2 years to a year to 90 days to 30 days to 2 weeks, because they want to force the system to adopt the latest and greatest encryption for your encrypted certificates and stuff that will be quantum proof.
And they're doing applications of certificate life of minutes and seconds, because that's how quickly they want to turn over. I mean, I think that risk of the data being unencrypted later, there's all kinds of rumors about government storing and maybe bad guys storing encrypted information to be able to use it. The problem is quantum computing has to be at a price point that you can get to use it, besides being the
I mean,
government of the U.S. or the
there's
research
rumors
lab
the
in IBM.
NSA might have a quantum computer
Yeah,
already. Just
but most
rumors.
people are not going to have access to it for some
I'm
time.
sure
That
there's rumors the Chinese Communist Party does too. That's how they got into this DeepSeek thing. I'm
So
kidding.
there,
I'm kidding.
there is a span. I mean, the bottom isn't going to fall out of the quantum market the day they announce they've got a quantum computer you can buy.
Yeah.
It's going to be a while before it's accessible
Yeah.
to a lot more people.
I'm not sure nation states care about the cost that much. So China's just going to build one. We're going to build one.
Oh, that's who can afford to do it. I'm
No,
saying you and
exactly.
I
Right,
and
so it'll
everybody
be
else.
used for that. But that being said, I'm going to call this my Zebulon Pike theory, right?
Like the Tholian web.
No. Zebulon Pike, right, is don't underestimate the ability of some lone wolf genius who figures out a way to make quantum computing, or figures out a cheaper, faster AI thing and launches himself into low Earth orbit just as a Vulcan ship is going by, boom, the next thing you know, we're part of the Federation. That could very well be, I mean, this is right out of Star Trek lore for all you Trekkies out there, right? The Earth, there's some sort of holocaustic war between the powers that be, and people are dispersed, kind of living in small groups, but some guy out was it in Minnesota or somewhere he was, or Wyoming, Mitch?
I remember.
He manages to break the speed of light barrier and achieve warp speed, and that's
I
how
think he was in this Yeah, and this
We might
in the
have similar kind of
Sierra Mountain.
breakthroughs. DeepSeek is sort of like that. We might have there might be someone right now in Nebraska working on some quantum theory.
Right. It's right next to their cold fusion reactor on the other side of the garage.
Well, could be. Could be. Hey, this is the year for nuclear fusion. That's what I'm waiting for. I've been waiting for that my whole life too.
Zephyr Cochrane.
Zephyr Cochrane, not Civilian, not Pike.
Yeah.
Mhm. Captain Pike.
Captain Pike, right? But it's Zephyr Cochrane. That was the man,
Yeah.
right?
See,
He
we just
invented
saved,
the warp drive.
we just saved you 4,672 emails. So there you go.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, DeepSeek, for that answer I just got.
Exactly.
No, they filtered that out. But anyway, it's been an interesting show here today. I hope you guys have had as much fun as I've had talking about some of this stuff. These are great days. I'm glad we have this forum to talk about it. I'm going to just do a quick plug for my own thing. This Thursday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm going to be on LinkedIn Live for my second episode of Shimmy Says. It's only about 10, 12 minutes, but I'm going to be talking about DeepSeek. If you want to talk to me about it, come on to LinkedIn Live. It's on the devops.com page and LinkedIn Live will be there, and I welcome your questions and comments. I'll try to hit them if they're there. If not, you could just listen to me. Mitch, you're heading out to Tech Field Day AI, right?
Yeah, AI Field Day in San Jose. Some great companies we're talking to about the latest stuff that they're doing. You can watch it on Techstrong TV tomorrow, and I guess today and tomorrow. Yeah, some great conversations. We have delegates that are asking all those good questions you'd love to ask, right? We have several vendors that are coming in. So join us there. It's also on Tech Field Day website, YouTube.
YouTube channel.
It's in all the papers. It's on
YouTube channel.
Techstrong
It'll
site.
also be the Techstrong Gang for Thursday and Friday this week. Will be live from San Jose, well, not live, but recorded from San Jose at Tech Field Day AI. Mitchell will be there along with John Willis, Stephen Foskett, some of our other friends. So stay tuned for that. Lisa, what do you got going on?
I've got going on just more research on AI. One of the things I'm going to be talking about on the radio is AI-powered serendipity. You ever wonder when you're scrolling through like Netflix and it pops up something that you would never have thought was the right thing? What is AI-powered serendipity? How does it work? And why is it a good thing and something to also be a little bit concerned about? So that's something I'm going to be digging into for this
Very
week.
cool. You'll have to come back and
That
tell
will
us.
be on the next episode of Techstrong Gang that you're on. So we'll be coming back to
We're
that.
coming back to that.
Perfect.
I would just say, are you gonna translate all that LinkedIn Shimmy Says stuff into Chinese for our new AI overloads? How's
I
that
don't
gonna
have to. It gets done. It gets done automatically
work? All right.
on Pentium chips, by the way.
Oh, old school.
Amanda, what do you? I know you've been up to your ears here. We should announce Amanda's recently assumed a new role here at Techstrong.
Amanda is now our senior managing editor for all Techstrong sites. So
Congratulations to Amanda.
Wonderful.
You go, Amanda. You go.
All right.
it comes with great responsibility because, well, if anything goes wrong, the first call goes to Amanda.
That's
So there you
good.
go.
That's good. Maybe you can get
Love
one
you,
of those
Amanda.
Chinese AIs to help you. Just kidding. All right. Look, thank you wherever you are. Was it Ephraim Cochrane?
Ephraim Cochrane.
You know, I actually saw a thing somewhere in Iowa. It's the future birthplace of James T. Kirk, because maybe there's somewhere there. Anyway, we've had enough. We've gone into
What episode does he make his first appearance on Star Trek?
Cochrane. On the original series, they crash land on a planet, and he has a companion who's cured him and keeps him alive immortally, and she becomes a human person because they're in love. And they live happily ever after, but not forever because now they're human. Do you remember that one, Mitch?
Oh, I do. And I think it was like the movie Star Trek 7 or something when it was the next generation took over.
When he breaks the warp barrier, yes.
Yes, I think it was the Sierra Mountains is where he was, or somewhere like that.
All good. For all you Trekkies out there, don't say we don't cover it here on Techstrong Gang. We'll be back
Transparent
tomorrow.
aluminum. That's another invention. That's a great one. So
Yep. We'll be we'll be back tomorrow. Actually, excuse me. We'll be back tomorrow from Silicon Valley and Tech Field Day. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for we actually have Tech Field Day AI live on our show today, as well as some more great news and content on Techstrong TV. Until then, though, this is Alan Schimmel on behalf of all our gang members here today. Good luck. We're out.